Morning, students. What was our earlier class discussion? Okay. Ah, what was our previous class discussion, ma? Sai? Hmm. Cost apportionment, cost allocation, cost apportionment, and we have solved some problems with respect to absorption. And we came across two situations. What are those situations? Under absorption, over absorption. Actually, the cost should be equally absorbed, but in some cases they tend to under absorption. In some other cases they tend to over absorption. Under absorption is nothing but you spend the money but you are unable to recover the money. You actually spend the money but you are unable to recover the money. That situation is called under absorption. You spend the money and you recovered excess. Say for example you spent 900 but you recovered 1000, 1100, 1200, like that. In that scenario, what we will call as over absorption. Over absorption. Udbhav. Udbhav. What's your name, ma? Teja. Okay. So you have to cover previously covered two classes which are available in YouTube. So by tomorrow, please cover. Only half day classes are running for you, right? Only half day. Afternoon itself free time. So how many classes we have covered so far? This is fourth class if I'm not wrong, right? First class completely about basics, and you have to cover two more classes. By tomorrow you have to cover. Okay. Each session will be somewhere around 1 hour only. If you cover those topics, you will have a clear idea about what we are going to discuss. Okay. If you are having any doubts, ask me or ask your friend. Okay. Have you covered the previously covered yesterday's class? Why? You both are friends? Right. You have to cover previous class also. So you both cover by tomorrow. Right. So coming to our today's discussion, sir, what is today's discussion? Very good. Listen carefully. Today we are going to discuss with respect to cost sheet. Actually, this cost sheet we have to cover yesterday. But with respect to apportionment and allocation, absorption, under absorption, over absorption, the session has been completed. Today we are going to discuss with respect to cost sheet. Okay, so as far as you know what is meant by cost, and you know what is meant by costing, and you know what is meant by cost counting. Okay, and you know cost allocation. You also know under absorption, over absorption. Okay, so these are the things we have covered in our previous sessions, and today we are going to discuss with respect to cost sheet. Before we will discuss cost sheet, we have to have a clarity about what are direct costs and what are indirect costs. Direct and indirect costs. So do you have any idea with respect to direct and indirect costs? Do you know? Direct cost, indirect cost. So nothing to feel difficult with respect to these definitions and all. You simply learn these topics in a simple way, like that. Say for example, direct costs are those costs which can be traceable with respect to a product. So listen carefully. Direct costs are those costs which can be traceable in a product. Traceable in a product. Say for example, this water bottle is there. This water bottle. So what are the major costs of this water bottle? If anybody asks a question like this, what you are going to say? This water bottle is made up of plastic. Made up of plastic. So ultimately, plastic is the major component, and you have to spend major amount of money in which resource? Plastic. So this is directly traceable with respect to this water bottle, right? So material, plastic is the direct cost. And one more thing, is plastic available in this mold, in this shape? No, plastic is available on a bulk wise. It has no shape. We are going to mold that plastic in whatever shape we want. From that raw material plastic, we can mold into bowls, we can mold into water bottles, we can mold into plates, right? So the same raw material has been used for the production of bottles, utensils, plates, whatnot. You can do anything with plastic. Okay, so plastic is available on a bulk wise, and from that bulk you molded that plastic into a shape which is called bottle. So in order to mold, you have to use machinery, right? And the mission cost also can be traceable with respect to this product. But listen carefully. This bottle, somewhere around in a factory, it will be manufactured, right? In whatever the factory it may be. It may be a factory situated in Mumbai, Kolkata, Hyderabad, Chennai, whatever the city it may be. So listen carefully. Answer this question. I'm going to ask a simple question. In some factory, this bottle has been manufactured. That factory has a gate. Automatically, the gate has a watchman. For that watchman, what you are going to do? You have to pay salary. What is the salary amount which is traceable with this product? 100% this bottle has been manufactured in a factory. Whatever factory it may be, X factory, Y factory, Z factory, whatever the factory it may be. For that factory, there is a watchman or there is a group of watchmen, security personnel. What you have to pay to that personnel? You have to pay salary. Somewhere around 20,000, 30,000, 10,000, 15,000, whatever it may be. Where is watchman salary in the product? Here, here, here. Where is? You can traceable plastic cost with respect to this bottle. You can trace mission molding cost with respect to this product and all. But you are unable to trace watchman salary with respect to this product. And I'm going to ask one more question. We have covered that this bottle has manufactured in a factory. That factory has current connection, electricity connection. If there is electricity connection, month end, what they are going to receive? Electricity bill. Where is the electricity bill in the product? Where is the electricity bill? No, we are unable to trace some costs with respect to some products. Those untraceable costs are called as indirect costs. Those untraceable costs are called as indirect costs. So non-traceable or untraceable costs in a product. Okay, so indirect costs are those costs which are able to trace or unable to trace. Unable to trace. Those kind of costs are called as indirect costs. What costs? Indirect costs. Now, you please answer my question. You sat in chairs, right? What are the direct costs with respect to the chairs? That chair has sponge and the chair has iron iron material, wooden material, plastic metal, that cups and all, screws, nuts, bolts, welding, everything is there. So you can find sponge cost with respect to the chair, iron cost with respect to the chair, welding cost, plastic items cost, wooden cost, etc. and all you can trace with respect to the chair. But again come to the same discussion with respect to watchman salary and electricity bill. Forget about watchman salary and electricity bill. Say for example, this chair will manufacture in somewhere around in a factory, right? In that factory, some accountant will be there, right? In order to record the expenses and record the incomes, accountant will be there, or some employees will be there. Where is the employee cost or accountant cost in the chair? Are you able to trace accountant salary from the chair? No. But you are able to trace sponge cost. You are able to trace iron cost. You are able to trace wooden costs. You are able to trace nuts and bolts cost. So there are certain costs which can be traceable with respect to a product, which can be directly identifiable with respect to a product. Those costs are called as direct costs. There are certain costs which cannot be traceable with respect to a product. Those kind of costs are called as indirect costs. So now you tell me, identify the direct cost with respect to the tripod and the camera. What are the direct costs and indirect costs? Lens, very good. Stand, tripod cost, very good. And some sort of softwares we are going to use in the product, some kind of sensors, some sort of switches and bulbs we are going to use in the product. Those kind of costs are directly traceable. So those kind of costs called as direct costs. Say for example, you all wear chappal, chappal or shoe, whatever it may be. So from that chappal or shoe, what kind of cost you can trace? Rubber cost you can trace, leather cost you can trace, and the material cost you can trace. The chappal has been produced in somewhere around, say for example, a city called Chennai. But the chappal has been produced in Chennai, but you purchased those chappal in Hyderabad market, from Hyderabad market in a Hyderabad shop. How the chappal has been transported from Chennai to Hyderabad in some lorry or some train or in some travels or by somewhat transport means the chappal has been transport from Chennai to Hyderabad. Now find out transport cost in your chappal. Say for example, the chappal has been transported in lorry, and for the lorry you have paid 20,000 or 30,000 as transport expenditure for the bulk amount of chappal. Where is the lorry expenditure, transport expenditure in your chappal? Are you able to identify the transport cost from your chappal? No, you are able to identify some costs only. What are those some costs? Material cost, sponge cost, some rubbers cost, pins cost, etc. Decorative items and all you can trace. Remaining items you can't trace. That is, in any product that kind of costs will be there. From any product you are able to trace only some costs. So yes, which you can see and which you can identify. From any product, you can take any product. There are certain costs which you cannot trace directly with respect to the product. Those kind of untraceable costs will be called as indirect costs. Those kind of non-traceable or untraceable costs are called as indirect costs, which are traceable will be called as direct costs. Sir, now why you are saying all this direct cost and indirect costs? Yes, there is a relation with respect to cost sheet. Before you are going to solve problems or before you are going to understand the concepts with respect to cost sheet, you have to bifurcate, you have to differentiate the costs with respect to direct and indirect costs. Direct and indirect costs. Listen carefully. In any product in general, three kinds of costs will be there with respect to any product. Material cost, What? Material cost, labor cost. What is that? Labor cost and expenses which can be directly traceable. Apart from material and labor, you can trace direct expenses also. You are able to trace, then only it will be called as direct expense. If you are unable to trace it, that expenses will be called as indirect expense. Okay. In material, two kinds of motives may be there: direct material, indirect material. In labor also, direct labor, indirect labor. Expenses also, direct expenses, indirect expenses. Listen carefully: direct material, indirect material, direct labor, direct labor, direct expenses, direct expense. So now listen carefully. All will sums up to add prime cost. What is the cost, ma? Prime cost, PC, is very important. What is this? Prime cost. What kind of components will add up to prime costs? Direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. Sir, what about indirect material, indirect labor, indirect expenses? Those indirect components will add up to overheads, which we are going to learn at a later point of time. So first of all, you have to understand what is meant by PC. PC means prime cost. So what kind of components will sums up to prime cost? Only direct components. What are those direct components in general? Direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. These kind of direct components will add up to prime cost. Add up to prime cost. And indirect expenses will add up to overheads. Okay, so now you have a clear idea with respect to what is meant by overhead. Overhead means indirect expenses. So for this indirect expenses, I have explained all these scenarios. Clear? So what components will add up to overheads? Indirect components. What is meant by indirect components? Which are not traceable. What is meant by non-traceability? These are all electricity bill, watchman salary, transport expenses. These kind of components will add up to indirect expenses, and all indirect expenses with respect to components will add up to overheads. But there is certain classification with respect to indirect expenses also. In overheads also, some classification is there: production overheads, administrative overheads, selling overheads, distribution overheads. Like that, we have to differentiate. We will differentiate now. So listen carefully. First of all, in order to learn about cost sheet first, you have to know this thing: DMC, direct material consumed. Direct material consumed. Consumed means used. How much amount how much amount of material we actually used will be called as consumption. Say for example, you are building a house for you. For that building, you estimated 1000 bags of cement it will require. How many bags? 1000 bags of cement you require. And on that basis, on that calculation and estimation, you purchased 1000 bags of cement. How many bags of cement? 1000 bags of cement. But only 950 bags of cement has been used in your construction of house, and remaining 50 bags are not utilized in the construction of your house. How many bags actually used? 950. 950 bags actually used. What about remaining bags? Not used in your construction of the house. It means whenever someone asks you the question with respect to cement consumption, which answer you are going to say, 1000 or 950? 950. Only 950 bags of cement has been used in construction of my house. Sir, why sir, you purchased 1000 bags, right? Yes, I purchased 1000 bags, but I shouldn't say consumption is equal to 1000 bags. How many bags I consumed actually for the construction? Only 950. I purchased 1000, but how many bags I actually used? 950. Remaining 50 I am going to return, or I am going to use for other purposes, not for house purposes. So in costing scenario, you have to always record consumption only, not actual purchase. Consumption only, not actual purchase. Say for example, if you are unable to understand this example, listen carefully. Your neighbors are conducting a small function with respect to some something good news happened with them, and they are conducting a small function, and they went to some sweet shop, and they are planning to distribute sweets for all the nearby localities. Say for example, their son passed IAS exam, APS exam. For that celebration, they wish to spend, or they wish to distribute sweets among their nearby locality. They went to a sweet shop for the purchase of 1000 kgs of laddu. 1000 kgs. So whenever someone is purchasing sweets in bulk scenario, it will be available at a lower cost or higher cost? Higher cost. Lower cost. So whenever you are purchasing 1000 kgs from a sweet shop, you can able to bargain. You can able to bargain. So laddus will be available at a lower cost. So you came to know about this news. What this news? Your neighbor went to a sweet shop with respect to purchase of 1000 kgs of laddu. You also need some 2 kgs of laddu. Okay. You called your neighbor and, sir, where are you? Sir, I am at a sweet shop waiting for the delivery with respect to 1000 kgs of laddu. Sir, for myself also, please bring 2 kgs laddu, sir, please. Why you are requesting your neighbor? Why? Because laddus are available at lower cost. If you went to a sweet shop with respect to purchase of 2 kgs of laddu, it will be available at a higher cost. Per kg, it might cost around 400 to 500, somewhere around like that. At a more prices also available. So, being your neighbor is purchasing 1000 kgs, those sweets are available at 250 only. At 250 only. Listen carefully. Your neighbor is purchasing how many kgs? 1000 kgs at 250 per kg. Is the actual market rate in retail sense. In retail sense, that means you purchased half kg, half kg, 250 grams, 1 kg, 1.5 kg. It will be available at 400 to 450, somewhere around it will be available. Then why the shopkeeper is giving a 250 only? Is he mad or what? Then why he is giving? Why? Because that person is purchasing in a bulk quantity, wholesale. Wholesale prices are cheaper than retail prices, right? You know the sense, right? So at 250 they are only available. So now you came to that news and you called your neighbor. Sir, please bring 2 kgs laddu for me also. At which rate? 250. So how much you are supposed to give? 500. 250 into 2 kgs, how much ma? 500. 250 into 2 kgs comes up to 500. Okay. And how much he purchased? 1000 kgs into 250. It means 2,50,000. 2 lakh. What is his bill and what is your bill? His bill is 2,50,000 and your bill is just 500. He is saying to all local body nearby neighbors that me and you, that person and you collectively purchased 1002 kgs laddu, and you are going to share the bill equally. That means 2,50,500 you are going to share equally. Why? Because you both combinedly purchased the laddu. Are you going to pay the money? Are you going to pay 1,25,000? No. How much you are going to pay? For only 2 kgs. How much it is? 500. On what basis you have decided 500? Sir, I consumed only 2 kgs. I asked only 2 kgs. For that consumption only I will pay. Remaining, how will I pay? That is not my consumption. Listen, you got the costing language. You are talking about consumption basis. So, cost should always be recorded on which basis? Consumption basis. He purchased 1000 kgs. He purchased how much quantity? 1000 kgs. But for yourself, he purchased only 2 kgs. In your name, on your name, he purchased only 2 kgs. For how many kgs you are going to pay? Only 2 kgs, but not for remaining 1000 kgs. Why? Because you are going to say a beautiful theory which is on consumption basis. Sir, I consumed only 2 kgs. That is why I'm going to pay only for 2 kgs. I didn't consume 1000 kgs. That is why I'm not going to pay for 1000 kgs. In the same way, come to cement example. How many kgs of cement, how many bags of cement you purchased? 1000 bags. But how many bags you actually used? 950 bags. Now you have to record cost up to how many bags? 950 bags. You are not going to write cement cost as 1000 bags. Why? Because you not utilized. If you remember my basic classes, I have already clearly written here. This one. Listen carefully. Read out the highlighted box carefully. Read out this box. Cost should be charged on consumption basis, general basis. Just because you purchase, you are not going to write. Out of that purchase, how much you consume, that is you are going to write. In sweet shop example, how much you purchased? 1002 kgs. Are you going to pay for 1002 kgs? No, you are going to pay just for 2 kgs. Why? Why? Because your consumption is only 2 kgs. So cost should always be charged on consumption basis. This I have covered in my basic classes. Okay, right. So coming to our discussion with respect to cost sheet. So first, what you need to write? Direct material consumed. Direct material consumed. Sir, what is meant by direct material consumed, sir? You practically know, but technically you don't know. There is a formula for DMC, direct material consumed. Sometimes the problem they are going to furnish with this kind of data. Then you must know how to calculate direct material consumed. Listen carefully. We have to calculate direct material consumed with the formula opening stock of raw material plus purchase of raw material minus closing stock of raw material. This is the formula, or this is the simple rule to calculate direct material consumed. What is that? Direct material consumed. You can calculate direct material consumed by using this simple formula. What is that simple formula? Opening stock of raw material plus purchases of raw material during the current year minus closing stock of raw material. And there is one other component also, but it will leads to unnecessary confusion. That is why I'm not going to tell. But what is that thing is direct expenses with respect to purchase of raw material, which means carriage inward. Carriage inward. Example, what ma? Example, carriage inward. Carriage inward. So by using this formula, you can simply calculate what? Direct material consumed. So what is the formula for direct material consumed? Opening stock of raw material plus purchases during the year plus direct expenses for the purchase minus closing stock of raw material. By using this formula, we can calculate DMC, direct material consumed. Direct material consumed. Okay. Next one, there is another topic with respect to direct labor cost. What is that? Direct labor cost. Direct labor cost. So direct labor cost is nothing but how much amount of money we actually spent in the name of direct wages. The name of direct wages. Listen carefully. Labor cost includes only wages, not salaries. Why? Because employees will come under administrative overheads. Employees and laborers, what is the major difference between employees and laborers means? Laborer, we will engage laborer only when there is requirement with respect to the work. Not on a fixed basis, but on a work basis. If there is work, you are going to hire. If there is no work, you are going to leave. Simple. But employees not like that. Even though there is work or even though there is no work, you have to pay salaries to them. They will regularly come to your office. They will regularly attend to the work. It is your responsibility to provide work to the employees. And on a fixed basis, you have to pay them salaries. So that is why salary should not be written here. You have to write only direct labor cost with respect to production, or direct labor with respect to in order to produce the goods, how much amount of money you spent in the name of direct labor. That thing only you have to write, nothing other than that. That is direct labor cost. So you got the clarity with respect to DMC and DLC. There is formula for only DMC, no formula for DLC. Direct labor, no formula. In practical scenarios, in your problems, how he will ask means, he will tell the labor hours. Sir, 400 hours has been used in the production of goods. Each hour we are going to pay 120 rupee. By using this multiplication, you have to arrive at direct labor cost. Use the calculator and tell me 400 into 120, 48,000. 48,000. So this is DLC, direct labor cost. Direct labor cost. In case of DMC, sometimes he will directly give the figure. Direct material consumed is 1 lakh or 2 lakh or like that he will give. But in some practical cases or in some lengthy problems, he is not going to give the direct material consumed figure. He is going to furnish with this kind of data. Whenever he furnishes this kind of data, you have to calculate what needs to be added and what needs to be subtracted. You must know what needs to be added: opening stock of raw material, purchases of raw material, direct expenses with respect to raw material. You have to add, and you have to subtract only one thing: closing stock with respect to raw material. Sir, why we are deducting closing stock with respect to raw material, sir? Just now I told you that cost should always be recorded on consumption basis. Whenever there is closing stock, it means you didn't consumed. Closing stock means not consumed, right? So whenever the stock is not consumed, you are not going to write in the cost sheet or in the cost records. So that is why you have to subtract. In the cement example also, how many bags you purchased? 1000 bags. How many bags left? 50 bags left. That means how many bags you consumed? So simply you can write opening stock 0. Why? Because you recently started construction and there is no opening stock with respect to cement bags. Plus purchases 1000 bags minus closing stock 50 bags gives rise to 950. Simply we arrived at consumption. Is it simple? And if he furnishes with any other data with respect to direct expenses for purchases or raw material, like that carriage inward example, if anything has been given, you have to add that thing also. Carriage inward you have to add, not carriage outward. Carriage outward means you will incur the transport expenses after the production of goods. It should be recorded in selling and distribution overheads. It should be recorded in selling and distribution overheads. Carriage inward means lorries or transport vehicles are coming in. What they will carry? Raw material. Raw material means simply direct material only, right? So you have to write carriage inward at this stage, carriage outward at last stage. What is the last stage? Selling and distribution overheads. So these are the crucial things. And last but not least, direct expenses. If anything given with respect to direct expense. So these three components will add up to PC. What is PC? Prime cost. What is PC, Amma? Prime cost. So direct material consumed, direct labor incurred, direct expenses incurred. These three components will add up to prime cost. There is formula only for DMC. Direct material consumed. Opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock. This is the simple formula. Okay. So this is with respect to prime cost. With respect to what? Prime cost. Okay. So do you know the derivation with respect to prime cost? Listen. Do you know the derivation with respect to prime cost? How to calculate prime cost? What is your answer? How to calculate prime cost? We have to add how many components? 3 components. What are those 3 components? Direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. If we add these 3 components, it will give rise to prime cost. But is there any formula for direct labor? No. If there is any formula for direct expenses? No. But there is formula for DMC, direct material consumed. What is that formula? Opening stock of raw material plus purchases during the year plus direct expenses, if any, for the purchase only, if any. But this is an exceptional case. Generally, they won't give. If they give, you write simply. So, opening stock plus purchases minus closing stock. This is the simple formula. So now, I don't know anything. If you say, I'll write. So, how to calculate prime cost? I don't know. You have to say. First of all, what is the first component, Amma? Direct material consumed. That is the first component. So, some amount will be there. How to arrive at this amount? Opening stock of raw material plus purchase of raw material plus direct expenses of raw material, like example. Carriage inward. Okay. Next, minus closing stock of raw material. If we did this, what we will arrive? We will arrive at direct material consumed. Are we clear? So, tell me about second point. I don't know. You have to say. Very good. Direct labor cost. Okay. And the third thing is direct expenses. Direct expenses incurred. So these 3 components sums up to what? Prime cost. Prime cost. This is completion of 50% of cost sheet. Costs are only 2 categories, direct, indirect. That is the basic session. What is our first discussion in this session? What is direct cost? What is indirect cost? Bottle example I have taken, chair example I have taken, you taken a camera example. Okay. So direct costs are those costs which can be traceable with respect to the product. And indirect costs are those costs which cannot be traceable with respect to the product. Say for example, if this pen is there, it will cost around 6,000 or 6,500, somewhere around. So what components will make this cost up to 6,500? There is a nib, which is very crucial. Not refill. Okay, so there is a sensor, there is a charging slot, and there is a minute motherboard with respect to pen, and there is a plastic thing. So these sensors, motherboard, charging sensors, and charging indicators and writing sensors will cost up to 4,000 or 4,500. These are the direct material cost. This pen somewhere around manufactured in, I think it is manufactured in Chennai plant. I purchased it in Hyderabad. How it come to Hyderabad shop? Somewhere around by means of transportation. For that means of transportation, they have incurred some expenses, right? Am I traceable? Am I able to trace that kind of transportation expenses with respect to this product? That is why those expenses are indirect costs. Those can be traceable or called those can be traceable, direct cost, non-traceable, indirect cost. Now we have completed the direct portion. DM, DL, DE. Very good. Direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. Three component sums up to prime cost. Now there is a formula for DM, no formula for DL or DC. Okay. So 50% of cost sheet is completed. Now listen carefully. There are three overheads. Just like there are three direct expenses, there are three indirect expenses, which is categorically distributed into three components: factory indirect expenses, administrative indirect expenses, selling and distribution indirect expense. What are the three components, ma? Factory indirect expenses, administrative indirect expenses, selling and distribution indirect expenses. These are the indirect expenses. And you very well know the summation of indirect expenses will gives rise to, very good, overheads. The summation of direct expenses gives rise to prime cost. The same way, the summation of indirect cost expenses, direct expenses gives rise to overheads. Just like there are three categories in direct expenses, there are three categories in indirect expense. But we don't call them by their name as indirect expenses. We'll call them by the name of overheads. So now listen carefully. We'll discuss what is overhead. So how many categories? Three categories. So first category is factory overheads. What ma? Factory overheads. So to prime cost, we have to add factory overheads. Sir, what is factory overheads? What kind of components will add up to factory overheads? Tomorrow I'll tell. Not today. Okay. First of all, understand the structure and the skeleton of cost sheet. How many overheads are there? Three categories. Out of three categories, we have completed one category. Factory overhead. So listen carefully. Whenever factory overheads has been added to the prime cost, will gives rise to gross works cost. Gross works cost. Gross works cost. And we have to do an adjustment here. Totally two adjustments will come. Totally how many adjustments? Two adjustments. Of the two adjustments, one adjustment we have to do here. Adjustment means nothing, ma. We have to add something and we have to deduct something. We have to add something. That kind of addition and subtraction will called as adjustment. So to gross works cost, we have to adjust something. That means we have to add something or cause and we have to add something and deduct something. This adding and subtraction will technically called as adjustments. Okay, listen carefully. To gross works cost, we have to add opening stock of work in progress. Opening stock of work in progress. I hope you all know what is meant by work in progress. Say for example, plastic is there with me. It will be called as raw material. Bottle is there with me. It will be called as finished. But I molded up to this phase. Or I molded this, but I didn't manufacture the cap. And I didn't molded this one this way as well as this design. I didn't mold it. Will be I think it means there is some more work which I needs to be done in order to call it as a finished product. Will be called as work in progress. Work in progress. Your CMA Inter best example for work in progress. Have you completed CMA Inter? Work in progress. You are not at can someone say that you didn't yet started CMA Inter? No, you have started coaching with respect to CMA Inter. So you neither fall in did not started category, you nor fall in completed category. You are in middle of the way. You are not a foundation student, you are not an intercompleted student. You are which student? Intermediate student. So with respect to CMA Inter, your work is in progress. Okay, so the same way we have to add what? Opening stock of work in progress, and we have to deduct closing stock of work in progress. Simple. We can remember. So after we did this, the net result will comes as net works cost. Net works cost. Net works cost. So how we have arrived at net works cost? Are you able to understand? Listen carefully. How many overheads are there? Out of 3 overheads, we have completed only 1 overhead. What is the name? Factory overheads. For factory overheads, we did an adjustment. How many adjustments will be there? 2 adjustments. How many overheads will be there? Following? Okay. So after arriving at prime cost, we added factory overheads. So in total, 3 overheads will be there. Out of the 3, we have added factory overheads. 1 overheads we added. After addition of factory overheads, the result will be called as gross works cost. Gross works cost. To that gross works cost, we have to do an adjustment. Adjustment means add something and deduct something. We added what? Opening stock of work in progress. We deducted what? Closing stock of work in progress. And the result will be called as, before adjustment, the result will be called as gross works cost. After adjustment, the result will be called as net works cost. Net works cost. Clear, Amma? Now listen carefully. How many overheads will be there? 3. Out of the 3, we completed 1. So we have to complete another one. So 1 completed. What is that completed overhead name? Factory overheads. We are going to complete another overheads. That means administrative overheads. Administrative overheads. So we have to add administrative overheads. Whenever we have added administrative overheads to net works cost, it will gives rise to cost of production. Cost of what, ma? Production. Again, we have to do adjustment. How many adjustments will be there? 2 adjustments. Out of 2 adjustments, we have already done 1 here. So the only 1 pending adjustment is there. Now we are going to do the adjustment here. What is meant by adjustment? We will add something and we will deduct something. So let's add. Do you know what to add and what to deduct? Opening stock of finished goods. Opening stock of what, ma? Finished goods. And you have to deduct closing stock of finished goods. Opening stock of finished goods and closing stock of finished goods. And the net result gives rise to cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold. How many overheads are there? 3 overheads. Out of 3, we have completed 2. And how many adjustments are there? 2 adjustments. We have completed 2 adjustments. No more adjustments. Adjustments completed. And out of 3 overheads, 2 completed. What is the remaining overhead? Only 1 overhead is there. What is that 1 overhead means? That is selling and distribution overheads. Selling and distribution overheads. S&D overheads, will simply call it as S&D overheads. After addition of selling and distribution overhead, no more adjustments. No more adjustments. So it will gives rise to cost of sales. What ma? Cost of sales. Okay. So to cost of sales, if we add profit, have to add what? Profit. It gives rise to sales. This is the completion of cost sheet. So we have completed drawing cost sheet. So this is the ultimate cost sheet. Exactly fitted in the TV screen. Okay. So with respect to adjustments and all, I'll tell, listen carefully. Forget everything. Don't carry anything. I'm not going to ask question. Let's be zero. Don't remember anything. Okay. Be zero. Don't carry anything in your mind. Sir is going to ask that adjustment. No, I'm not going to ask. Zero. Listen carefully. In direct part, 3 components there. In indirect part, 3 components there. But indirect part we will call by the name of overheads. By the name of? Clear, Amma? Direct part, after adding 3 components, that 3 components will sums up to prime cost. What? Prime cost. So let's be clear with what is meant by prime cost. Direct material, direct labor, direct expenses. Clear, Amma? There is a formula for direct material consumed. There is no formula for remaining 2 things. So tell me the formula for direct material consumed. Opening stock of raw material plus purchases plus direct expenses, if any. Generally there won't be any. If anything given, you have to write minus closing stock. Simple. So first 3 things clear, amma? Prime cost varaku clear? Prime cost clear? DM, DL, DE. DM, DL, DE. There is a formula for DM. No formula for DL, DE. Clear, amma? After calculation up to prime cost, we will encounter with 3 overheads and 2 adjustments. 3 overheads and 2 adjustments. Listen carefully now. The 3 overheads are factory overheads, administrative overheads, selling and distribution overheads. And the 2 adjustments are WIP adjustment, FG adjustment. Simple. 2 adjustments are what, ma? WIP adjustment, FG adjustment. WIP adjustment means work in progress adjustment. FG adjustment means finished goods adjustment. Adjustment means adding and subtraction. These 2 names and these 2 names you have to remember. Don't confuse. Before adjustment, it will be called as gross works cost. After adjustment, it will be called as net works cost. Here, before adjustment, it will be called as cost of production. After adjustment, it will be called as cost of goods sold. There is no adjustment here, only result, cost of sales. And if we add profit, it will give rise to. So in tomorrow's session, just after commencement of our session, I am going to ask each and every one with respect to the questions with respect to cost sheet. You should be able to understand, and you should be able to answer my queries. Clear? Have you got the confidence with respect to cost sheet? Do you understand? Any doubts? Understand and remember in a simple way. Don't get confused. So in simple, what we can say, three direct expenses, three indirect expenses, two adjustments. What cost sheet na? 332. 3, 3, 2. First three what? Direct expenses. Next three what? Indirect expenses, but we will call in the name of overheads. What are those three? Factory overheads, administration overheads, selling and distribution overheads. What is these two? Adjustments means adding and subtracting. Okay, so in tomorrow's session, just after commencement or before starting our session, I am going to ask questions with respect to this cost sheet. Everyone be able to answer my queries. If you are unable to answer my queries, I am going to give imposition. Write cost sheet 15 times. Then you won't remember, you won't forget. Okay, so in order to avoid imposition, what you need to do? Simply one thing you can do. If you remember the entire cost sheet, there is no point of imposition, right? Is it hard to remember cost sheet? 332. 3 direct expenses, 3 indirect expenses, 2 overheads. Yeah, sorry, 2 adjustments. Adjustment means adding and subtracting. First adjustment name WIP. Second adjustment name FG. You mean finished goods. And do remember these names. Before adjustment, it will be called as gross works cost. After adjustment, it will be called as net works cost. And before adjustment, it will be called as cost of production. After adjustment, it will be called as cost of goods. Okay. So these are the things which we have learned in today's session. Remaining things and the problems with respect to cost sheet and all, we are going to discuss in coming session. Following up, remaining we'll discuss in tomorrow's session. Right. Thank you.